In the last video, we ended up on page 39, and we were essentially talking about the common law sheriffs and how they would serve notice on the local LEOs and basically saying, as far as arresting, criminals, either come under the common law and take the oath and serve with us or get out of our way, essentially. And so to kind of wrap the rest of that up and finish it up, it says, on those occasions when this tactic has been tested in Canada and elsewhere, the results have always been the same. The police back off and do not interfere. Time and again, neither the RCMP nor the Vancouver police have interfered with protesters who peacefully occupied the churches responsible for the death of the Native Indigenous children. On one occasion, a senior police sergeant even stated that if the Catholic Church had committed such crimes and were served with a court order, he would be duty bound to enforce such an order and arrest those responsible. Again, quoting Sun Tzu, to defeat an enemy, one must know them, and such knowledge can only be gained through constant contact, he says. Provoke them to learn their responses. Prick them to test their strengths and weaknesses. Do not outfight them, but outthink them. Common law peace officers return power to the people by making them their own police authorities. In doing so, they challenge the very basis of the status quo and its elite-based rule by undermining those accountable armed bodies of men who constitute the final and ultimate power of the state. The common law, in short, is a seed of fundamental social and political transformation, not simply a weapon of self-defense for the oppressed. On citizens' arrest. The right and necessity of citizens to detain suspected or actual criminals has long been recognized under both civil and common law. For example, as mentioned under a recent law in Canada, the Citizens Arrest and Self-Defense Act, the right of citizens to perform arrests and detain suspects on their own, has been broadened to include not only people caught engaging the community, endangering the community, and harming others, but anyone suspected of crimes, including known offenders. Under the same common law custom of pro toto posse soi, I don't know, see above, that was the sheriff's posse, that empowers any group of adults to unite and stop those causing harm. The right of citizens' arrest is not restricted or negated by a higher authority because of the recognition that any man or woman has the competence and obligation to see and directly halt wrongdoing in their community. That's essentially what has to happen. There have to be enough people that just stand up and say no. And that spreads like wildfire. And I feel like in some ways the people, in our world feel like they can't even do that. They can't even stand up and say no. They stand by, they watch. They were the ones that stood by in school while some kid got bullied and they never stood up and said anything. And some of us were the kids that wouldn't allow it, and we stepped in, and we stood up for the kid that was getting bullied, and we took on the bullying ourselves. Somebody started bullying us because of it. I don't know what your experience it was in school, but I'm guessing people that have done their paperwork and have become American state nationals stand up and they say no, and they're not tolerant just to stand by and just to watch these things happen. I don't think it's in our nature. The procedure of performing a citizen's arrest is as follows. One must first either witness a crime or recognize a suspected criminal or known offender, or even have a reasonable suspicion that such persons pose a danger to others. Such a suspicion must be based on probable cause and not simply a feeling or a prejudice about someone. One must then inform the suspect or offender that he or she is being placed under citizen's arrest under the right of necessity to defend, which obligates the arrestor to detain the suspect or offender. The arresting party must state who they are and why they are exercising the power of arrest by stating the cause of action. 3. The offender or suspect must be detained and held for trial in a common law court. If they turn out to have committed a crime or pose a danger to others, the amount of force used in the arrest must be a reasonable response to the suspect's behavior. Citizens can normally hand over those they have detained to an authorized common law peace officer or a sheriff of the court. The arresting parties must be willing to appear in court and give sworn testimony concerning their actions. The crucial importance of the power of citizens' arrest is that it trains and empowers citizens to take responsibility for policing their communities and for the law itself. It moves a democracy from theory to action. If I can pause and just tell a small story, in our community, we had this kind of intoxicated, belligerent man that decided to slap around the woman that he was with. And of course, that made me angry. And so, they were arguing, and it was a domestic. And so I walked over to where they were, and I told them that, I told him, I said, I completely witnessed you hitting her. Whatever she did to you, I don't know, but you physically assaulted her, and I watched it, and I'm a witness. And I've gone ahead and I've called the police, I've called the authorities. So if you could just wait right here, they're just going to be here in a couple minutes. So they're going to come and pick you up, and they're going to go ahead and take you, and she can come with me, and she can come over down here where we are, and we'll look after her. But sir, if you could just wait right here. And he took off lickety split, like he was gone in 2 seconds, which, was my goal, was just to separate them and get him out of there and just stop the dysfunction and stop it. And, there was not going to be a problem because I already had his license plate, photographed, and the police could clearly find him later if they needed to. So I don't know, I think when we see things like that happening, if people step up and, gather around and again, say, no, this is not going to happen. You're not going to do this. I know things will change. They really will. All right. Broader consequences of the common law court, a world made new, page 44. Our first step towards independence from England was the establishment of our own republican courts, right under the nose of the Brits. We set up a different legal system of our traditional Brehon laws, Brehon, even while under military occupation, and we had to defend that system in arms. So you can say that once we started living under our own laws, everything else had to follow right up to becoming a new nation. John McInnes, Republican veteran of the Irish Civil War, 1974 interview. For what you call the law is but a club of the rich over the lowest of men, sanctifying the conquest of the earth by a few and making their theft the way of things. But over and above these pitiful statutes of yours that enclose the common land and reduce us to poverty to make you fat, stands the law of creation, which renders judgment on rich and poor alike, making them one. For freedom is the man who will thus turn the world upside down. Therefore, no wonder he has enemies. Gerard Winstanley, The True Leveller Standard, Surrey, England, 1649. For the people themselves to sit in judgment of historically untouchable rulers like popes and heads of state and to render an enforceable verdict on their crimes is a revolutionary act. And such a revolution has begun with the February 25th, 2013 verdict of the International Common Law Court of Justice. We cannot shrink from or deny the profound consequences of taking such a necessary historic step. Rather, we must recognize that the new judicial system in our hands is in fact a doorway to a transformed world in which the land and its wealth and society as a whole is reclaimed by the people and brought into harmony with natural justice through a great social leveling. Many traditions and prophecies foresee such a time as now as a judgment upon the corruption and justice of the human world. Biblically, such a moment was known as the Jubilee, when all when all man's laws and divisions were abolished and society, like nature, during a fallow year, is allowed to rest from warfare, corruption, and injustice. That would be amazing to have a jubilee and to just, not have to live the lives that we've lived for so long. Everything's taken care of, all the bills are paid, and look at what we could do just to really promote peace, prosperity, love, healing, time for people to even be in like different groups to like just, talk things through, educate, and really start this process that we need of self-governance. It would just be such a gift. The kids would probably still have to be in school though, because otherwise, I don't know. We'll have to talk about that. In truth, we recognize this historic moment not only as a condemnation of what has been, but as a transformation into what is coming to be, a reinventing of humanity according to the simple principle that no law or authority shall ever again cause anyone to rule, harm, or dominate others. The aim of common law is to reestablish direct relations of mutual aid among people by placing justice and the law within their reach again. And the devolution of power will simultaneously disestablish all hierarchical institutions of state, business, and church, which control and mediate life as a power over people. A process so profound and revolutionary can only be enacted from the grassroots by many people who have relearned freedom and use it to take action in their own communities to govern themselves as their own judge, jury, and police. On the basis of this good renewed soil, a great harvest will one day arise in the form of new and local republics, of equals in harmony with humanity and all creation. The common law is a catalyst and a means toward achieving this political and spiritual end. For now, as we struggle to give birth to the courts that are like a great plow breaking open the dead soil of the status quo, we must never forget that much of what we have been taught will betray us. And for we have been raised as slaves to think and operate under laws that serve the few. Everything must be rethought and retried according to the three great principles of natural law. All things are placed in common for the good of all. No one has any natural authority over another, and therefore the law shall cause harm to no one. We are exactly the people that are supposed to do this because we are the ones that are here. And so if you ever think about it and you doubt or you are overwhelmed, do not doubt, do not overwhelm. I mean, we are exactly, absolutely the right people that are supposed to be here right now doing this. I am absolutely certain, and I love it. Our principles are firm, but our methods and tactics are supple. We most audaciously try ever new ways to expose, indict, indict, and stop criminal institutions and corporations that are killing our planet, our children, and our sacred liberties. And together, we must learn from every mistake and defeat and generalize the victories and wisdom we gain in clear precedent throughout this long redemptive struggle that will span many lifetimes. I said it was indict. I'm sorry. I was laughing at myself. The conscience born into us is our lamp during this journey and our best instructor, as in our great heritage of natural law and reason, passed down to us that a free and independent community of people may never perish from the earth. Armed with this truth, this knowledge, and this sacred purpose, go forth and take action. You have a world to win back. The law is the public conscience, and the common law is but common reason. And that is from Sir Edward Coke, 1622. It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. Samuel Adams. And then that takes us into the appendix. And when you get into the appendix, I just want to tell you there's so much, and I think it's going to be a valuable resource. But the sovereign basis of common law courts, the people's assemblies, a vision and a practical guide, practical measures, a charter to establish and maintain sovereign people's assembly under the authority of the Republic of Canada. So that is clearly Canadian. Constitution of the Sovereign People's Assembly. So some of this might be Canadian. And this is by Kevin Annett. The purpose and nature of our struggle. The Chinese general Sun Tzu, he talks a little bit about him and the art of war. And that goes on for quite some time. And then finally in Appendix 4, you have some common law documents. Notice to warrant and deputize, public notice of claim of right made under the common law. Oath of the common law court office. What we want, 7 steps to freedom. And there's more in there. And so if you haven't gotten it yet, I definitely recommend getting the book, A Common Law Training Manual. And then I'm going to further go into these appendices. And when I read them, I'll make one last video on the appendices, hopefully one video. And we will see how much we can get in that.